A top lawmaker is suggesting that the IRS may have tried to intimidate a witness. An IRS agent allegedly visited the home of a journalist called Matt Taibbi on March 9th. That's the same day Taibbi testified in Congress about the Twitter files and government abuse. Congressman Jim Jordan wrote a letter yesterday to IRS and the Treasury officials requesting all documents related to the visit. Jordan said while Taibbi was testifying, an IRS agent left a note at his house. And the IRS later informed Taibbi had rejected his 2018 and 2021 tax filings over concerns of identity theft. Jordan said the IRS never mentioned problems before that on Twitter. Taibbi said he didn't want to comment until the IRS replied to Jordan's letter. Elon Musk tweeted that the timing of the visit was very odd. Jordan said his committee should investigate the IRS visit to see if it was an attempt to influence or intimidate a witness. Joining me is Jenin, Younes, Litigation Counsel at New Civil Liberties Alliance. Now, the IRS giving Taibbi an in-person visit, this was on the exact day that he was testifying about the Twitter files. It seems to me the IRS didn't have a problem before this, and the fact that they paid him a personal visit out of all the ways to contact him. What should I make out of this?
Well, it's pretty disturbing, I think. So my understanding is that the IRS typically doesn't just show up at your house if there's an issue. And he also says there was no issue. He did all of his taxes. They actually owe him money, not the other way around. The fact that that occurred on the same day he testified for this new select subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government, which is about the federal government using its power in unconstitutional ways, is really ironic, and I think shows that it was, I mean, I can't say for certain, obviously, because we just don't know, that sometimes coincidences happen, but it seems highly unlikely here. It seems as though it was an intimidation tactic because he had dared to speak out about the government's unlawful involvement in tech censorship.
I'm starting to draw parallels to, like, classic mafia movies where, like, if you did something, they would pay you a visit. Is the IRS sending a message here?
That's what they seem to be trying to do. They seem to be trying to say, if you are going to bring to attention what the government's unlawful activities, unconstitutional activities, well, we're going to punish you for it. We're going to make sure that you don't do that so other people don't do it as well. This isn't the sort of conduct that you see in Western first world democracies. This is the sort of thing that you are more accustomed to in authoritarian regimes, I think. So I think Americans should really be concerned about this.
Would you classify this as a form of sort of censorship of speech?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that's fair. It's they're basically trying to prevent people from speaking out about what journalists. I mean, this is a journalist who's been vocal about what he thinks is the government's unlawful interference in social media censorship and the tech companies' bad censorship practices. And then you have an IRS agent showing up, and what the message that's being sent is, if you dare to do this, you're going to be punished too. You have to be worried about, the IRS going after you. So that's what they want people to think. They're so bold is really interesting too. They're not doing this behind closed doors. They wanted people to know. So I think it's clear that they want Americans to get that message.
Right. That's a very good point. It happens on the exact same day he was testifying on the Twitter files. What was your impression of that hearing?
Well, the hearing was very interesting, and the conduct of a couple of Democrats, particularly W. Wasserman Schultz, comes to mind, was shameful. I mean, they were attacking journalists, in addition to Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger, who have investigated this whole enterprise, the government big tech censorship. And they were sort of trying to smear them and suggest that they were doing this for opportunistic reasons, that they shouldn't be listened to because the subcommittee was, seen as a Republican, politically sort of ideologically Republican committee, when these were journalists who were talking about what they had discovered when investigating these issues. It was really embarrassing and un-American, frankly.
Do you think maybe there's a bit of politics in this, where the right is doing something and then the left, using the IRS, is doing something in retaliation? Do you think there's a dynamic here?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's exactly what's going on. This is seen as a right-wing enterprise, even though it shouldn't be. Really, all Americans should be concerned about the government's involvement in social media censorship. But it's been smeared as a sort of right-wing the concern, and the left claims that they're just concerned about people's lives, as though, when it's really much more complicated than that. And so it's clear that they're trying to use the IRS to go after political opponents, in my opinion. That's what this episode shows.
All right, thank you so much today, Jenin. Pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And the House Energy and Commerce Committee held a hearing today on big tech censorship. Those testifying included journalist Michael Schellenberger and Seth Dillon. He's the CEO of Babylon Bee. Tune in at 6:30 p.m. Eastern for our evening news with Stephanie Cox of their coverage of the hearing.